all within me, within me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like, I always try to make it more universal, not just about me, but like, I think for some reason it was important to me, and maybe still is, like, where exactly do I fit into the world? Who am I exactly? And, but I think I'm just getting more comfortable with everyone's living their own life and focused on their own lives anyway. And I am very comfortable for the most part with who I am now and all my shades.
Right.
And as you probably are, and we're, luckily we went through those earlier struggles as opposed to now.
This is Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, with Whitney Ann Jenkins. Hello and welcome to the 28th episode of Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, where I bring on guests and we talk about the inner authentic voice and the challenges and the rewards that come from following it. This week I have with me Matt Reischling. Matt is a singer-songwriter, a small business owner, a traveler, and an author of his new book, Almost Weightless, which is a collection of essays about his self-discovery and self-reflection and travels, finding his way through life. And Matt also happens to be a friend of mine, so I absolutely wanted to support him in this endeavor already. But then after reading the book, it was something that I needed in my life exactly at that moment. And it was very synchronistic. And so that is a big theme between Matt and I. We're the kind of friends who, when we get together, we immediately dive into deep topic conversations and leave the small talk to the side. So I really hope that you enjoy this conversation with Matt and I as we dive deep into his memoirs. He has some really fascinating stories of his travels from Italy to living in Echo Park and Los Angeles to living on a boat to going to Cuba and Mexico and even his current location where he's based now in the Bay Area. There's some insightful and profound wisdom tales to take away from there also. I encourage everyone who listens to grab a copy of Matt's book because we can talk about the stories, but his writing style and his humor and the way that he comes upon discoveries with himself within his writing is really something that ought to be experienced. So without further explanation, here is our conversation. Enjoy. Speaking of like synchronicities, I feel like your book came into my life at a time when I really needed it because
Nice.
I'm at a crossroads. I've got a lot of forks coming up, and within that, I have a lot of decisions to make about my life. And along with that is comparing my life to other people and their paths and like where I am in comparison to that.
Yep.
And so I've lived my life very differently than the traditional kind of life path, as have you. And so you, like, sharing your story and me, like, just being able to dive into that allowed me to accept that I'm on a different path and that I don't have to know all the answers and I don't have to, like, be at a certain point at any certain time, and that every experience is valid and it's okay.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. The first question that I usually ask people to start off, just to like get a little psychological about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. To dive back into your childhood, because that's where everything starts.
I can't do it. No, I'm kidding. We can't go there.
And maybe this doesn't even start in your childhood. Some people, it may not like be clear
I get it.
until later on in their life.
Yeah.
But when was the first time that you realized that you had an inner voice or an inner knowing or this intuition that you were guided by, and it wasn't influenced by your parents or your school or your environment, but you knew that this was you and it wasn't influenced by anything else?
Well, I love the question. And I would probably say that by the time I got to high school, I was always associated with a group. I mean, like most people growing up anywhere, you're either, you're in one of the groups, right? For the most part, whether you're a skater or you're a jock or a goth or a theater kid or whatever. So I was kind of more sports kid, friendly with everybody. But to answer your question, I started to notice in high school, I preferred to step out of my group, my social group, and just talk with everybody. So I would hang out with the stoners, I would hang out with the goth kids, and they seemed to like my energy, and they knew I was friendly. I didn't have an agenda, and I wasn't just a typical sports kid. There was a curiosity there with other people, and I think I realized that I enjoyed living that way for the first time, as opposed to always clutching on to my handful of friends. And I think when I realized that I kind of get along with everybody for the most part, that I wanted my life to continue in that direction. I wanted to talk to as many people as I could and learn about as many experiences as I could. And I think I continued doing that, and I'm doing it to this day. So I hope that, answers your question, but it also leads to an artistic voice, which happened in college when a girl named Jessica Weil, she was my neighbor in college, introduced the guitar to me. I didn't play until I was like 20. But then the artistic voice came through with the guitar pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So I think I bridged like to talk to everybody, I like to play music, and that turned into storytelling. And now this book is storytelling. Right. So I like to tell stories. And you can only do that if you talk to a lot of people, right? I mean, can you relate to that? You seem like a person that talks to everybody. No?
Yeah. Yes. I was very similar to you at school. Like, I didn't have a specific group that I belonged to. I kind of bounced around. I grew up in West Virginia. Yeah. And so my ideals were not necessarily accepted maybe as easily as they would have been somewhere else, because I was like writing essays on gay rights and like gun control before it was cool
in West Virginia.
West Virginia. So
they didn't expel you or anything.
They didn't, but maybe that was why I didn't really have a group that I belonged to.
Yeah.
So I relate to also like picking up the guitar later on in life. And I started playing guitar because it was a way for me to write songs about my life, to deal with things that I was going through. And so what was it that inspired you to pick up the guitar and start writing songs?
Wow. Well, I never had a pre-thought of doing that. And it was pretty much random chance to have a neighbor that I liked as a friend she was playing Talking Heads in her room. It was in the dorms actually. And I love Talking Heads. So we just got to talking. But when I started playing it, picking up the chords quickly, wrote a song quickly. I'm sorry, your question was what excited me about it? Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry. Well, no, you asked a good question, then I forgot it.
I mean, since
I was going there.
We're focused on storytelling.
Right.
And so what inspired you to start writing songs? Was it the guitar in particular that seemed to be a tool that enabled you to get there? Or did you write poetry when you were a kid? Like, how did that connect for you?
Okay, I love it because I'm thinking about it now. I wrote a screenplay, and I still have this thing. And if I'm going to make it, even if it bankrupts me in the future, it's called Zebra. And it's a very imaginative, playful, whimsical thing. And so I did that before I learned the guitar. And for some reason, your question made me think of this. The first time I think I ever wanted to present a story in front of anyone, talent show, let's put ourselves in this moment. Talent show, I believe it was 3rd or 4th grade. My friend Joel Millhouse, who was a country kid, very kind of quiet and kind of stern, cowboy hat, cowboy boots. I just liked his cowboy vibe. And I said, we're going to write a play. We're going to do it. We're going to do a play. And we wrote a play. It was called New Year's Eve. And this was the whole play. And we were the 2 actors. And I just think I still smile thinking about this. But so I'll just cut to the scene of full auditorium, curtains open, 1 table. Joel is my father, who's kind of like a 50s non-emotional, kind of alcoholic, but we're not we're not, claiming that in an elementary school play, but that typical 50s father. Mm-hmm. And I'm the excitable son who wants to connect with the father. Okay. Right. And this doesn't mirror my life. Me and my dad had a pretty good relationship, but I wanted there to be a dramatic father-son moment at a table. Right. Mm-hmm. And there's no props, maybe a couple cups or something. And this is the whole play. It lasted like a minute. I said, Dad, it's New Year's Eve. Are you excited? And then he kind of mumbled something because he was a gruff character. And I go, okay, here it's coming. Here it comes. And then we count down 10 all the way to 1. I go, Happy New Year. And I throw some confetti and I look at him and he's totally like silent and cold. And then curtain, that was the play. And as I got older, I thought that was kind of like a Sam Shepard play,
right?
Like just men that can't communicate. And so that happened when I was 10. So wow. there were stories within me that I wanted to share. I don't know why I picked that one, but it should have got a Pulitzer, quite frankly.
So I wish that I could have been there to see that.
I remember the applause was barely audible. Like there was nothing but stunned silence, I think. Yeah. And the follow-up was a really sweet girl with a leotard, kind of a heavier girl. And she was doing dancing, a freestyle dance to Borderline by Madonna. So she stole the show. She won first prize and our play was never heard from again.
Oh, well.
Yeah, but she did great. Yeah.
That's very sophisticated of you as a 10-year-old. So
I think so.
I think it is. So did your family growing up, did they introduce you to like film and art and storytelling, or how did that come about?
You know what? My parents, they were into some good music, some cheesy music, but some good music like Motown. And they're liberal and showed me some things. But I will have to say that my biggest cultural influence growing up came from my aunt and uncle, who still live in town. And they were the couple that would take me in the car around the same age that I wrote the Sam Shepard play, and take me to the movie theater to see like Baghdad Cafe. I don't know if you ever saw that movie back in I think it was the late 80s or mid 80s. Like black and white art film that totally confused me, but excited me. And they would take me to a circus, like a funky arty circus, not a typical circus, just expose me to different things, take me to museums. And so I would say they were the biggest influence on me in terms of a different worldview, different, like weird arty things. And that's not to knock my parents. I think with my parents, they had a formula that worked for them. They didn't come from much, so they were a team together.
Right.
It was all about working their jobs and moving forward. They didn't have time to to really focus on taking me to funky cultural things. Quite frankly, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Wasn't in their wheelhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, and they appreciate stuff like that. But my aunt and uncle to this day. Me and my aunt go to the DeYoung Museum in San Francisco once a year to see new exhibits. And so we have that bond like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's good to have that influence in your life.
For sure.
Yeah. And so I want to get into your book a little bit.
Cool.
Because that's why we're here, ultimately.
Right on. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah. Like I said, it was really resonant for me. And it starts off when you're in Italy, correct?
Right,
if
right.
I remember right.
Siena, Italy, yes.
Yeah. And so you have family roots there.
Yes.
So how did that decision come about of you to go explore Italy? Was that always something within your family that interested you? Or like how did that opportunity come about?
So basically, we all know people who do the year abroad. Right. Maybe. Did you do a year abroad?
I did. I was an au pair in Italy, so it was a little different.
Okay. That takes care of babies. Is that what that means?
Well, I taught kids English during the day, and then I had my evenings and weekends completely free.
Nice.
And so I had a lot of adventures too. So
nice.
I relate to your book on many levels.
Right on. No, I love that. I love it. Well, so to answer your question, which I'm always trying to do because you're the interviewer and I'm answering questions. Sorry, just some meta commentary there.
It's okay.
I went to UCLA. I didn't love UCLA the first couple of years. I had some friends. I was proud to be there, but I felt like it was too big, and I felt like a number, as many colleges can make you feel like these days.
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted to change, to have a different experience, do something different. So the year abroad thought popped up, and then I'm half Italian, and we do have relatives there and outside of Lucca, Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still alive today. And that bond was not super strong. And I had this idea like, hey, maybe I could go to Italy. I'll try my best to learn the language as best I can before I leave. So I took some Italian at school, and I threw myself into the year for Siena, then Bologna. And it was, the best thing I ever did, because I had just learned guitar. So now I'm over there with a guitar, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I'm growing my hair out, and I'm meeting people from different colleges, and you're in Europe. I mean, everybody knows this. When you're young in Europe, it's like a romantic novel, no matter what happens, it's just unbelievable. So the main thing was change up my destiny from UCLA and try something different, and then reconnect with the Italian roots. And also I loved the Italian language, the sound of it, the cultural, everything about it. And it was just an adventure. I knew that I wanted that, and I did it, and it completely changed my life. So I don't know what would have happened had I not taken that year, that is.
Right. Do you remember what it felt like when you first stepped onto the land?
Wow. Okay. In Italy.
In Italy. Do you remember that feeling? Do you remember what it was like?
I'm going to go back to that right now, because I love that question. Let me tell you something that I think is fun. Before getting to Italy, I met this girl named Tali, mm-hmm. who's a very successful kind of producer person in New York for fashion magazines and whatnot. But we met in Amsterdam at airport only, before getting our same flight to Italy, which will lead to your question. But we were like so excited. We're in this airport, and we're like drinking beers and jumping up and down. I mean, we're like total dorks, and we buy an Italian newspaper. We can't read any of it. We think we're cool. Like we're suddenly Italian all of a sudden. Anyway, I'm trying to think where the plane landed. It landed in Venice. Oh yeah. So Venice. Okay. And I can't say that I remember the actual foot on the ground, but here's what we all know. Within like minutes, you're looking at a canal. Okay. And anybody that, for the millions of people all around the world that have had this experience, it's spiritual. It's a spiritual thing almost. You cannot believe it's real. Mm-hmm. And once minutes after the plane, and then a quick bus to now we're in Venice, walking down those steps out of the station and looking at the Grand Canal, I literally felt like I was in a dream. Like this is a dream now. I am now living a dream. And then we got, sat at a generic tourist place, and but cigarettes. We didn't even smoke cigarettes, getting charged way too much because we're dumb tourists. Looking in the Grand Canal, that was the first moment of a new era, new chapter for me.
Yeah, I remember a moment in Italy where I felt like I had never felt that alive before in my life.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like I don't even know how to explain it, but yeah.
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 Well, it's also I'm sure many people have an experience like this in different European countries, but it's one of the most energizing countries. Mm-hmm. Obviously. I mean, right. The gestures, the yelling, the activity, the motorini, all of it, right? And that's what it just jolts you into reality, a new reality.
Like even the tones of the sun, I feel like.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I like that. Mm-hmm. It made me think of a Thomas Kincaid painting or something like it. With a bubbling brook nearby and a cabin with the chimney smoking.
Totally. So in your year in Italy, how did that... So when you're in a foreign country and the language is not like your first, I feel like you have to kind of like tune into your inner wisdom and your intuition to kind of navigate it, right? So did you feel that you connected more with your intuition during those moments, or how did that affect your voice? Did you feel that your connection with your intuition got stronger during that point, or how did that affect your inner voice?
Wow. I would say it took me a few months. I think most people would say that, although I can't speak for anybody. But you know, a group of us went to Siena, and we were in this protective bubble, you know, and we didn't have chaperones, but we didn't really leave the general area much. And we always had resources and teachers to talk to and things like that. When we went to our cities where we were going to be for the year, some went to Padua, some went to Venice, and I went to Bologna. That's when everything changed, where it was like sink or swim, you know, chin up. This is some serious shit. Like, this is a real situation, you know? And so inner voice kicked in then. It was more like, I remember telling myself, you can do this. It's a little scary. You need to find a place. You might, you know, that roommate situation might be a little, you know, unpredictable early. And it was like, you know, there were 3 guys right away. I jumped in Bologna, moved in with 3 Italian guys, and 2 of them were cool. One of them did not like me. And he was a plumber from Puglia. Oh. And he was like Popeye. We ended up being friends later, but for weeks and months, he would just look at me and like, give me that look like, you spoiled American. Like, you get to, and we had a night, we got through all this, but there was a night where he was like, you know, I bust my ass all day. I think I came home drunk. You know what I mean? We were 20 years old. We're coming home from a bar. And he's like, you know, I bust my ass all day. I'm a plumber. You know, I'm proud of what I do. And you're this American over here. You're getting drunk. You know, you barely go to class. You know, like all this. And there's nothing I could say. It was more like, you're right. Like, I didn't defy him. I tried my best to say, I have respect for you. And how am I supposed to respond to that? You know what I mean? You're like 10 years older than me, and you're a plumber, and you're working 12-hour days. That's not my reality right now. So to answer your question, it was like I pulled myself up by my bootstraps early. And I think I got used to the struggles because, you know, there were arguments. I keep going back to the roommate thing, but, you know, when you're living with people and I'm learning the language. There was one night, and I support them for doing this because there was one night where I was told, you got to remember to wash your dishes, right? Right. We're all in this together, small apartment. I go, totally, I get it. And I would usually do a good job of that. I was a respectful roommate. But I came home, I was kind of drunk. I remember looking at some dishes and I said, fuck it. And I went to bed, right? So then I woke up, went to class, did my thing, came back, and on my bed were all the dirty dishes, right? Mm-hmm. So they had dumped all the dirty dishes on my bed. And my friend, Luca, who was one of the nice guys, he was like, I told you. I mean, what did you expect to happen? You know, I get it. And I remember I actually had to walk to the balcony and like, I think I cried for like a minute. Just for like a minute. I'm like, okay, you know, I get it. I screwed up. I can handle this. So little things like that. You're away from home. You can't call, you know what I mean? Like, you're on your own. So just you got to navigate these situations, you know? Right.
Yeah. I can relate to that very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer the inner voice thing? I think the inner voice kicked in, though, for survival purposes, I would say, you know?
Yeah.
Which helps a person grow, right? I mean, when you're uncomfortable in a foreign place.
Yes. And I think it like forces you to connect with a different aspect of yourself that you might not be able to access at all times if you're in a comfortable place, right? So, because there's a saying,
I agree.
I forget who said it, but like, if you can't meditate, travel, because to like get out of your mind, to get out of your mind, so that you can find the stillness. Yeah. Okay. So you're in Italy, we're there for a year, and then you come back to the US to finish at UCLA?
Yes. Yes.
And what were you studying there?
So I ended up being an Italian. I was undecided up to that point, and I got a degree in Italian language and culture because I had so many units from Italy that I could just apply. And so that was the focus. So academically, it was fun. And we read Dante, we watched Fellini movies. I mean, it was like a dream. And the department was very small. But not to get ahead of anything you may or may not ask, but I actually did fall into my first pretty deep depression. Mm-hmm. Not that I try to define myself by that at all, but it's because it's been a somewhat of a pattern in my life at times.
Yeah.
Not in the last few years. I feel like I've kind of kicked it in a way.
Yeah.
Or I can stay above the water now. But the point being is coming after that massive experience, which I know a lot of people can relate to. I came back and was like, I can't believe I'm back into the same thing right now. Like, this can't be, I was grateful, but I was like, too much has changed now.
Right.
And so that kicked off some struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can relate to that too.
Yeah.
Like taking that experience and then coming back to Los Angeles and that life.
Yeah.
It's hard to like translate what you experienced into like what you are coming back to.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also know that I'm not totally unique. Like you said, you could relate to that. Anybody coming back from that experience. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, and I'm only mentioning this because you've invited me on here, is like the reason why it was double for me, double intense, was the sexuality thing again. It was like kicking in hard. It was like, look, you're bisexual, you're gay, you're probably more gay than bisexual. It was like, what are you? What are you? What are you? Which nobody needs to do anymore. Like, you could be whatever the fuck you want now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people still struggle with definition, of course, but I think I was just hammering myself with, you need to decide everything now, right when I came back, which was like, nobody cares about you defining yourself right now. Stop it. So that was that struggle kicked in hard after that year.
But it seemed like you cared about it.
Oh, absolutely. I did. Yes. It was all within me. Within me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like, I always try to make it more universal, not just about me, but like, I think for some reason it was important to me, and maybe still is, like, where exactly do I fit into the world? Who am I exactly? And, but I think I'm just getting more comfortable with everyone's living their own life and focused on their own lives anyway. And I am very comfortable for the most part with who I am now and all my shades. Right. And as you probably are. And we're, luckily we went through those earlier struggles as opposed to now.
Right. Because I feel like a lot of people, maybe a midlife crisis is when that kind of thing happens. Right. But as a storyteller too, I think that when you tell your stories more intimately, you can reach people on a deeper level universally. So I don't think you need to like zoom out as much, because I feel like... I know. That's a defensive mechanism that you recognized. So that's yes, you're right. I need to like stick with my story and nurture it. That's not like a criticism, but I'm just...
No, I know what you mean.
Giving you room to talk more intimately because people will connect with it.
Oh, I know. And I'm recognizing in this whole process, having never written a book before and sharing stories that are personal, that's a knee-jerk reaction for me I'm wanting it to be universal, but it's also about me. So I need to be okay with it. I am okay with it being about me, but I also, it's okay if we talk about me for an extended period of time, like we're doing now. And it's not me being selfish. It's not me being self-important, because everybody has their story. And that was kind of what I wanted. Hopefully that idea came across in the book as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Cool. All of your mini stories have a larger story that goes and interweaves into the web of your stories, which is really cool.
I love that. Thank you.
And I feel like that happened very organically and naturally, and it doesn't feel forced. And And so, like, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about your stories in your book if you want to, but also, like,
Sure.
people don't need to read it because it's very lovely and
Thank you.
profound. So I don't want you to feel like you have to give too much away because I want to
Right.
keep people intrigued. But
For sure. For sure.
yeah, so you you lived on a boat shortly after that. Is that what happened next?
Yeah, and I like that you said because I like to keep it mysterious too, and not over talk about what's in the thing. But yes, I lived on a boat, and there, as you probably can relate to, in one's life, there's so many different chapters, quote unquote, you can pick from.
Right.
And I always tried to pick ones. I tried to pick ones that I thought had those stories within stories, as best as I could. Right. And I got some amazing feedback from some close friends because I gave early versions to some of them, and they were like, "Where's this going? What's this about?" Like, okay, God, I need to clean this up, But lived on a boat right after college, and that was another kind of a big moment of what the hell am I doing? Who cares? Let's have an adventure. Everyone. I had a lot of friends that were getting like going to work for Deloitte and Touche. Right. Making $100,000 at age 23, and I'm showing up to a boat that's broken, which I loved, and with my buddy Mike Warren, who is also an author and a songwriter. He lives in Italy, and so yes, lived on a boat, and it was a magical year. It's still there. That community is still there.
Wow,
and it blows me away because everything around it is just totally developed, but this little plot of land, I mean, it's got a few, like 2 or 3 warehouses and then the dock, but it's just there. And it blows me away that it's still there with all the threats of gentrification. Wow. So I feel like it's this wonderful little secret. And I would like to throw this in if I can, without spoiling anything about that. It's called The Boat Days, the story. But the one thing I kind of wished I threw in there, I thought about it and then I didn't, but now it's like a secret fun thing to toss out into the world, is for those who are sports fans at Pac-Bell Park, which I think is called something else now, where the San Francisco Giants play. In the left field above the bleachers, there's a gigantic mitt, like a made out of metal, a catcher's mitt, right? It's like 30 feet tall, 20 feet wide. It's gigantic, right? It was being built right next to the dock the whole time that we were living there. And so every time there's a home run, it goes in that direction and you see the glove. It's been there for 20 years. Everybody knows about this glove, right?
Yeah.
And so we were walking past, coming back from the sea breeze with Mimi and Tony, the couple that ran this cafe by the water. They were always angry and yelling at each other. It was hilarious, but always intense. But we were walking back and we saw this. It was a group of women. It was actually an all-female crew. And they had white jumpsuits and they were working on some sculpture-looking thing. It didn't look like a mitt at the time. And then one day it got shipped off and we were like, what was that? They're like, that's the new mitt that's going to go in the left field behind the bleachers at Pac-Bell Park. We're like, what? So if you ever go to a baseball game to see the Giants, the mitt was built right next to our boat, basically. And there's a little side flag. And they put their bras. We've learned this later. All the women on the crew put their bras into each finger of the mitt.
Oh, wow.
So there's some folklore there.
Some ritual going on.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a...
What is so if we could have a tagline for the boat days.
Okay, a tagline, sure. What would it be?
Yeah, what would it be?
Okay, the tagline would be, I don't know if this will make a sentence as I say it, but living with a bunch of weird characters while trying to find myself along the water.
Yeah, and what did you find along the water?
I found out that I like to be adventurous and try different experiences, and I'm not afraid to move into young adulthood, taking risks and trying things. But I also found that I was a bit of a stress case. I was a bit of a neurotic person. I was a bit impulsive. I was a little bit angry, again, without not being settled as a, with myself or identity, about where I was going. The sexuality thing was still bubbling. And it was like, and I kept making it a bigger issue than it needed to be. So there's not to spoil anything, but there's a scene in a movie theater where I get into a fist fight with a guy.
Right.
And it was totally unnecessary. And I would never put that in there to act like tough guy. And hopefully it came across as it was basically me exploding unnecessarily on a stranger because I was so unsure of myself as a person and in my life's direction.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just on a boat. What am I going to do? What job am I going to do? I was a waiter, so that would be the tagline: living with fun, weird characters while trying to find myself, would be the boat days,
It seems like that's the theme that is threaded throughout all the stories as you finding yourself.
Yes,
and
for sure.
I don't know. I'm very much like that. I'm very like driven by becoming like the highest version of myself. Like, and I don't know that the average person also operates that way.
Right. Well,
maybe they do, but like not in the way that we like to.
Right.
Right.
Well, I think we're of a tribe, like me and you and our friends, the people that we love and that we know. We're all on the same frequency. We're all for the most part we're all a little bit crazy, right?
Yeah,
a little bit. You don't want too much crazy.
No.
I've definitely been accused of that, but I think I'm becoming more sane as I get older. I would call it excitable. That's what I told you before. Like I'm excitable. Okay. But no, but I think we all understand each other. I think a lot of people live quietly, modestly. They work their jobs, they raise their families, and that's a beautiful thing for them. That's what they want to do, and they have their moments of joy and struggle. And I'm not being condescending by framing it that way. And I used to be judgmental of that kind of life.
Yeah.
When I was younger, but now I'm like, hey, it brings them peace. It's what they like. And me and you and other people like and Chase White and Adam Laboff and these amazing people that we know, we're all doing different, fun, weird things. We're just trying different things, and we're reuniting as much as we can and excitedly exchanging things. That's just the way I prefer to live.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to be here much longer. Because we're all going to die. You know what I mean? Which is a whole other podcast.
That is totally
right.
There also seems to be a water theme.
Ooh, I liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you think so? Like, I feel like.
Can you please talk about that? Now I'm intrigued.
I feel like each location that you describe in your stories, like each location has like water associated to it. I feel like
you're totally wow. Seriously, that's tripping me out. That's because I'm thinking about Mediterranean,
right?
The boat days,
yes.
Echo Park Lake,
yes.
Hollenbeck Park has a lake, so around Boyle Heights there's a lake. The Depression one, Spring Lake,
yes,
with me and my dad,
yes.
Wow. And Cuba, the water,
water,
wow,
and the surfer guy in Mexico,
and the surfer guy that's Akumal. And of course Tulum. There was some Tulum right before that, but then the other one was Cancun, which I called my nemesis. I still consider it my nemesis. But did you have a senior trip, by the way? Did you do that? Did you ever go to Mexico?
No.
Your senior trip? Okay.
No, I was too involved in acting and theater and that kind of life. But
right, yeah. But that's cool. I never thought of that. That's very cool. The water thing.
Because you're a Scorpio too.
I'll break this down. Yes, I am. So why am I putting water subliminally?
You're a water sign, so like water helps you to access and understand your emotions, I think.
Wow.
And so I feel like you're naturally drawn to it.
I love, yes, I love water. I love the beach. I love diving in the ocean whenever I can.
Yeah.
Is that to quench the fire within that I
Probably.
that I have Scorpios are fiery people?
I would have to like look at your chart.
Sure.
Also, but like Scorpios also like have a lot of darkness too within them that is hidden often. And so like that makes sense. Not to get into astrology, but
no, hey, we had to go there. I had to go. You made me that. I was hoping, actually, casually hoping that I knew this would happen, that you would like help me think about what I did in a different way. You know what I mean? I'm not kidding. Like that, and you just did that, which is awesome.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I hope that the interviewees get out something from the podcast too. Like, totally. I want this to be like a healing experience for everyone. So
yes,
yeah,
I'm already there. I'm locked and loaded. Like here, we're still going. I love it.
Right. Okay.
Was that line from Top Gun? I'm sorry. Locked and loaded.
Okay, so I want to get to LA.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's a very like prominent part of your story in your life.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. And so you were here working your chess job, right?
I was teaching chess at elementary schools, but I was also, because I just think it's funny to mention, I was also one of those what do they call it? The focus groups. I was a focus group guy. Okay. But they pay, $200, $300 for dumb things. Like for the packaging for your feedback about a package of White Castle cheeseburgers. Wow. You know?
Yeah.
And you leave with a $300 check. So I did that. I did Italian tutoring at local colleges, USC, and then I taught chess. Yes.
And you were working on your music stuff too.
Always recording, always playing around downtown, not really into the Hollywood scene or trying to do that, but more like duo gigs with my friend Tato or a band thing occasionally. But yes, always, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So did you have like a goal for being in Los Angeles and working on music? Did you have something finding yourself? Definitely. Okay. So LA, you're doing music. Like a lot of people are chasing, to get ahead or like be seen. And there's a certain freedom that occurs when you allow yourself to not worry about that and just focus on your art and your craft, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that's a good question, because I fall into this group of millions of people that do this, and I don't regret it, of course. Is I went to LA and didn't know exactly why I was there. You know what I mean? First and foremost, I was pursuing music, and I loved songwriting, and I loved it at the time, and was recording and performing. So I wasn't just a dreamer on a couch playing my acoustic songs. Like we were performing. I was meeting some people that were fairly connected.
Right.
There was a moment, I'm gonna just name drop this because why not? But there was like a collaboration with a guy named Daniel Lupi, who does a lot of strings for Broken Bells, and Danger Mouse. He works with Danger Mouse a lot. He liked some of my songs, so we were sharing files. So there was momentum happening creatively. Mm-hmm. And so I was there basically for music, but and trying to see if things were kind of moving in cool directions. There was some licensing going on. My songs got into a couple commercials, minor stuff. Yeah. But there was some momentum. So it was something. But I also, just to be on the flip side, there was also the deep search of like, who am I? I want to be in love. I want to have a fulfilling life and a job, and where am I going to live, and like just life questions. So, but I was also just kind of cruising along, seeing if music would take me to a different place. Mm-hmm. But always meeting people that like me, Chase and Adam and Tato, and I have a huge group of friends in LA, and still do, and I'm blessed to have them as friends. And for me, it was about making friends, pursuing music, paying the rent, seeing where it would lead, which is not exactly totally responsible. You know what I mean? It's kind of you're kind of winging it a bit. I'm winging it, even though I had talent musically. So I'm not winging that. That's like a real pursuit. I was winging the direction of my life, which is always a bit dangerous, I think. I don't know. I mean, it's because LA here's what I want to add. I love LA, but it can trick you into thinking that you need to be in LA to be productive or important or considered worthy or something. And we all know now, me and you were talking about this, you don't need to be in LA to do those things. You can be anywhere. So I think I was convincing myself that I needed to be there, even though I was enjoying being there. Right. And lived in Echo Park, lived in Boyle Heights, and I met a lot of friends, and I will always go back. So does that answer your question for why I was there?
Yeah, but I think you're not giving yourself enough credit because the way that you operate in your life of just like accepting experiences as they come and recognizing the beauty of them as they are, like that's a really lovely way to live. And so you weren't just like floundering around like, you know, I don't know like who I am.
You're right.
Like you're actively like seeking to find yourself.
I think you're right. I think that's me. There's remnants of self-punishment coming through right now.
Yeah. And also,
you know what I mean? About judging myself.
Yeah. And also I want to talk about like the romantic like portions.
Sure.
Because I feel like there's a theme there too. And it's
okay. Tell me the theme. I want your
it seems like you are able to appreciate connecting with a person in the moment without necessarily worrying so much of what it's going to become in the future. And really like surrendering to that, which is not something that is easy or that most people would choose to explore.
Right.
And I can relate to that. Like, I understand.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I feel like that's why I felt so connected. I feel like we're connected on like levels that I can't even really explain or describe to you by reading your book.
I love that.
But yeah, do you want to speak on that?
I do. No, I was taking that in because it made me once again think of this in a different way. And I love that. Yes, I would say that being a fairly social / neurotic person, as I have been in the past, I'm less so now. My only solace from myself was to find tenderness with another person that would just be with me because they want to be with me,
right?
You know, in the moment. And I wasn't necessarily pursuing that. And I was always open to things, but I was never actively running around looking for things. But if somebody was attracted to me or liked me and they were giving me that vibe and I liked them back, like I knew that was like safe harbor, you know, and that I had to explore that, be with that person, talk to that person, be romantic with that person, right?
Right.
Because it would heal my soul and make me feel safe and inspired, you know? Yeah. And so I agree with you. I think I'm learning how to, and now I'm trying to apply it to right now. And it's hard to self-analyze, but there doesn't need to be an island. It can be everywhere, you know, all the time. And there's you don't need to run off somewhere to do something with somebody. And I used to always do that. Yeah. Can you relate to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have wanderlust. So badly that I would ache.
Wow.
And it would cause me to do crazy things. Like I would watch a movie that had Italy in it, and I would the next day book like a spontaneous trip and go there like right away because
oh my God.
Like
wow. Okay.
Like, so, but I learned that I don't have to go somewhere else to do that because I can find all that stuff within me.
Yeah.
And once I turned that around, that was like life change.
Yeah, you are the destination.
Yeah. Like you don't have to like go to a foreign land.
Totally.
To travel.
Right.
Or find yourself.
Or you don't need, or perhaps you don't need to spend, $5,000 on some philosophical religious program.
Right.
To teach you something, right?
But it takes bravery and courage to get to the point to be able to do that, just like it does to like go off somewhere and explore on your own.
Right. So there's many ways we're connected like that. And that's cool to learn that resonated with you, that kind of idea of the safe harbor or whatever you want to call it with someone else. Or romantically, did you also say that you had a similar experience or not?
Romantically?
I don't know. I'm putting words in your mouth. Sorry.
Romantically? Oh, geez. I mean,
a different podcast?
I'll just speak freely, but
sure.
I feel like I appreciate experiences for them in the moment more than most people. And I can like isolate this experience and be like, hey, like this is an experience that I'm having, and I don't have to like be depressed about it when it doesn't extend into something else, or I don't have to overanalyze it, even though I'm a very overanalytical person, as are you, which I find that's really interesting that we're able to like have these experiences and allow them to be while being completely overanalytical in other ways.
I know. I'm surprised by myself about that. That I'm kind of rephrasing what you're saying. Totally open in the moment person, totally neurotic Woody Allen mindset about everything without the weird allegations. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. But it's almost like an Owen Wilson vibe with a Woody Allen brain.
Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
We're very complex beings.
We are, but we're moving down the road together. We'll get to the promised land. Yes.
I think talking about depression is really important, actually. So if we want to focus on there a little bit.
Absolutely. So
when was the first time that you encountered depression? Do you remember? Because it's something that I've experienced, like even as a child. But I couldn't express it because I didn't understand it. I was just like super like sad and just distanced myself from everyone. So, and it's something that like wasn't as openly talked about. So I feel like it was probably similar in your case.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, this is one of those. I know we're both instinctive people, so a visual came in my mind right away when you asked it, and it made me uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm going to say it. Okay, but I think, I know that I would say junior high age bracket time.
Yeah.
I've never put those words together like that, but I started to feel some darkness, and it was pronounced. It was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But I was also very social. I know this is typical of many people, maybe even you. I'm a very social person, and I've been my whole life. So I'm not going to say life of the party, but I'm always wanting to project a social fun guy persona,
Yeah.
And it was well intentioned, but it was also masking a lot of like deeper, darker stuff. So to answer your question, I would sit in the shower a lot. I would actually be so exhausted by my own weight of whatever I was cranking on in my soul and my mind that I would just sit down in the shower, which I'm sure many people do. And I would, bow my head and just let the water hit me and take like a 20-minute shower, and it would be when it got hard, meaning like when there were periods of difficulty, that were self-created within my own mind, it would actually be challenging to just stand in the shower,
Yeah.
I would literally just have to sit, and it would make me feel better to some degree. Can you relate to that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, especially during that time period. But I didn't bother really to project some kind of personality.
Okay. That's good. You were more healthy. You were at one with it.
I also like went to a Catholic school, and we don't need to go into all of that, but
Sure. I'm sure there's some stories there.
I'm trying to like make this connection to the inner voice and depression because like during that time, I know that I felt trapped in like not being able to express who I really was in my environment. And I feel like that was a lot of where I was coming from because I didn't know how to like be me.
Yeah.
So is that kind of along the lines of like what was bringing you to that place, or was it
like you're saying you were feeling that way because you didn't know how to be your authentic self at the time?
Yeah, or I couldn't express it, or I didn't feel safe enough to express it, or I wasn't allowed to express it.
Yeah. I think with me, I mean, because I think with me, it was sexuality. It was, I was sexually active with some guys my age at the time. And I didn't feel like it was wrong, but I knew that it was not something that we're going to be talking about or like open about or like, you know what I'm saying? So then I started to think about, okay, this is part of me and it's not wrong, but it's hard to, it's hard to contextualize it within your own life at that age. And we're talking, not that it's, I'm saying, late 80s, whatever. So it was more like me stuffing it inside and thinking, am I scared? Am I too scared? Am I not, or is it wrong? Or, all these questions. Mm-hmm. And of course, none of it's wrong and it shouldn't feel scary and all that stuff. But I think that was the main thing. But I also think not just the sexuality, it was more, I knew I wasn't what people thought I was. I wasn't a flat-topped black basketball player. Mm. If anything, I should have been a long-haired theater guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, let me ask you this question because
sure.
I don't think it's off topic, but I feel like it kind of like relates to like where I was during that time. So maybe you'll relate to it too.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time that anyone ever saw you on like a soul level?
Whoa. Okay. That's a deep question. Saw me on a soul level. Like they saw exactly who I am.
Because like they didn't see you as the person that you were projecting to be. And so like it's hard to go back to that projection when someone has seen you on the different level and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great question. I think, in the moment, there's not a crystallized moment of that in my childhood or something, but I feel like during the Bologna year, there were a few moments with various people where we were like, we understood each other.
Right.
Like we knew who we were, what was happening, where we're going. We finally understood each other and that in all our complexities, but I don't recall that. I mean, my cousin, Kirsten is her name. She's very eclectic, artistic photographer person. She always kind of knew that I was more of an artist than a sports guy, so actually I'll cite her in this. Like since I was a little kid, she always recognized that I just was on a different path, and I think, or that I had the capacity to live a different life, a different kind of life than the one I was growing up in, and I always appreciated her for nurturing that, she would also, I should have brought her up with the cultural stuff before, but that's the daughter of my aunt and uncle, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
That I mentioned before. She introduced me to the Pixies and, the Replacements and just cool bands, from the 80s. And that was huge. So I would say she recognized it from an early age, and people my age in Bologna we recognized each other.
The scene in which you were at the restaurant with your family on your birthday.
Yes. Okay.
like was so like I could see it was very cinematic in my head.
I'm glad.
And I feel like the way that you wrote, I could just like visualize everything, and it's probably because I know you.
Yeah.
Maybe, but also like you're very talented in being able to paint a picture of the scene.
Thank you. Thank you. But can I ask you this? Did you feel, and I'm not asking for, I'm not like searching for whatever. Did you feel that fit the depression? Here's what I thought. Not that you asked this question, but the depression essay is very dark and heavy with some levity in there too, right?
Yeah.
Some levity inside the psych ward and this and that.
Right.
But I also wanted it to have a fun scene that was serious, which happened chronologically in the same time. Did you just feel like it fit, or were you like, why is this wacky choking on steak scene in this? Or did you feel like it fit?
I felt it very deeply. I understood.
Okay.
I understood why you put it in there.
Okay.
Because I could put myself into your place at that time and what you must have been feeling.
Right. Right.
Right. Just like not even being able to like eat a piece of steak properly.
That's exactly my point. Because I was trying to be like, I was just trying to go with the flow for the evening, keep my head down. Right. Right. Yeah. and it was the opposite.
Because it really highlighted the struggle of just being sometimes. Right.
Like just eating a goddamn piece of steak, right?
Just like being and survive. Yeah. And like also the added like stress of it being your birthday and like probably feeling like some kind of expectation to like be present in a specific way.
Totally.
That was probably one of my favorite moments. Yeah. In the book.
Wow.
Because it was so real and raw, and like I could like slip into that and totally feel. Yeah. I'm so
happy you say that, because I'm obviously confident with what I put out there, but you start to think like, did that contextually work? Blah blah blah. Just the Woody Allen brain again. But I love again what you're saying about how I was just trying to be under the radar, and it blows up into the biggest scene imaginable in a restaurant. And then I'm the focus of everything and everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, so I'm glad you connected with that. And now that one's after the Alexander Payne thing.
Right.
And I didn't know, not to get ahead of myself, but I know that we talked about that in the pool.
We did.
In Joshua Tree. No, and I love that. You were into it.
Yeah. It's a very fabulous story of synchronicity too, which is also a theme that I love. So whatever you would like to share within that, you're welcome to. It's a fabulous story. So
thank you.
I feel like it's very symbolic of the way that you live your life.
Wow. I agree with you. I think to me, it's one of the, I'm glad, I think if I had to pick one story that I thought was the core story, I think it's that one.
I think so too. Yeah.
And synchronicity, which we've talked about and we connect with, and I won't give too much away because I think that's a story that's kind of fun to discover on its own.
Yeah.
But I will say though that as time has passed from living it and then writing it and revising it and whatever, and now it's out in the world, is that I kind of see it now as I definitely feel there was synchronicity in that connection. And if your listener has not read the book, and I don't imagine they have yet because they're listening to this now, is I serendipitously met a film director, Alexander Payne, who directed Sideways and many other films about Schmidt and the Descendants, and he's filming a new movie with Paul Giamatti right now, as a matter of fact, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think I now see it less as, oh my God, it was so meant to be that I met him and we were on the same track and all that. And what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I see it less as this explosive synchronistic thing and more, it kind of is more tied into what he said at the end of our conversation, which is in the story, where he said, I like to think that maybe that's what's going on here, that there's a deeper cosmic connection, because there may or may not have been, but at the same time, mathematically and just odds wise, for that to have happened, for me to meet him is still crazy to me. I was supposed to meet him, and not to be a weirdo fan, and I wasn't a weirdo fan, and we are technically once a year texting friends, but it's been going on for 10 years or so, and I'm blessed to say I know the guy, but you never know, maybe we will have a creative connection in the future. I mean, I sent him the book a couple days ago, as a matter of fact, as a Christmas present. So he's already read the essay, and I guess I'm humble bragging here, but he said it was 3 words. He said, "I loved it."
Nice.
So he loved it, and I was excited. I'm excited about that story. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it opened up like a way of living more confidently in the way that you live, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's cool that you got that sense, because at the end I was like, what did you take away from that? And I thought, well, I'm more engaged with life. My radar is more tuned to everything than it was before.
Yeah. You trust yourself more.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like the things that are happening around us.
Right.
At all times.
It's like a symphony.
It's overwhelming if you let it get to be so, but it's because there's always information, and there's always people trying to tell you things that you need to hear, right? And they might not even know why they're telling you that. I mean, it's just like, we're alive here now, and it's happening in real time. Right. So it's overwhelming, but it's exciting.
Yes. I also love, story is not in the book, but I love that your medallion is like in that room.
Oh, I love it. Wait, listen, any listener needs to know, we all, a big group of us that are friends in LA, were in Joshua Tree, and I lost my medallion while swimming in this Airbnb that our friend Adam owns, and I left it anyway. My friend Chase White and Whitney live in the same apartment in LA, and Chase found the medallion, and it's now in their apartment. So is it giving off some cosmic aura in there? Is it shining like a prism of whatever?
Well, I think there's a deeper story, and maybe we'll bring Chase on. We'll bring Chase on the podcast someday.
Yeah,
and tell this story, because it's pretty crazy how he found it, and he lost his bag, and he didn't realize the medallion was in it, and then like he was able to find the bag that was sitting on the beach for like hours and hours at night.
Yeah,
that, like,
and nobody took that in LA.
Nobody touched it. Yeah, so there's like a lot of like weird energy around that medallion.
Yes,
it's obviously very special. So
I love it. It is special. It's been everywhere. Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of just brings everything full circle for me, because the medallion is right here, and we're speaking about your book.
That's right.
Yeah. What inspired you to write the book at this time?
I think I realized, I wanted to try a different like artistic medium, and I love writing. There's a screenplay. I've written some short stories, but I've never put them out there. I was like, you actually have a story here about you that can be universal if you write it well. And my thought was, you have very unique experiences in your life that are like fun, adventurous, crazy. Most people don't have those experiences. And the other half was, you have an internal struggle that almost killed you. Like you almost took your own life,
right?
Due to your own neuroses, And so I thought, if you can write it in such a way where you can tell both stories in parallel, or they can weave together and have it be fun and entertaining, then it would be worth it. People might enjoy it. And that's what I tried to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you did that very beautifully.
Thank you.
And effortlessly too.
Wow.
because like your voice is very strong. Yeah, like I told you before, your voice as a writer is very, you're like, you write almost as if you were writing a screenplay in prose. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's cool. No, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a huge compliment.
It's very visual. It's very
because I think with you, like many people could write books about their experiences, and I encourage everyone to do so. Yeah. But I also thought, like, this is like, you're not well known. Don't be self-important. Like, you only do this if you have a story or stories that could benefit people, quote unquote benefit, like they could take something away from it. Like, I feel like you have to some degree on a very subtle level, like it sounds like you've resonated with some ideas that are sprinkled within it. And that was totally my hope.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I would never want to do anything that was like trying to pound out a message about how to live a life,
Well, also, so I narrate a lot of audiobooks for a living, and so I've probably narrated 200 or so in the past year and a half.
Wow.
And so something that I learned by doing that is that no matter the elements of the story, there's always something of value within each one. There's always something to take away. So every story is valid. And so when you are sharing your story, like, there's definitely messages that are coming through. So
yeah,
your experience is valid, even if like you didn't have a specific message that you were trying to tell universally, I guess is what I'm saying.
I totally agree with you. Yes. I mean, if anything, the best, I don't know, not the best, but if I switch it over to like fiction, like what I like to read is, I like it direct. I like it emotional, simple, like, and I don't like flowery. Yeah. So I just resonate with that in terms of a writing style. And I don't know why I even said that. I don't know why I said that, because he didn't ask me about my writing style. But I'm just saying, we're just talking about why we wrote
So like,
please cut that. Please just cut that last part. That sounded
no, it's okay. I'm just saying, like, I feel like just because you're you, your message and story is coming out, and like, even if you weren't so mindful about crafting it in this way, I feel like it probably would have happened organically.
Probably, you mean in terms of how I wrote it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it did happen organically.
Well, all I know is that with music, with songwriting, with me, and with this book, and this is probably not too far off from any creative people that do whatever they do, is at first it's just like complete instinctive openness about like, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
And then you're constantly steering it, and that's the process that's the most challenging. That's what makes anything good or bad.
Right.
Is if you're whether to like, if you're able to steer it in the right direction. And I was very conscious of that, again, with that Woody Allen brain, like always like self-analyzing, like being a perfectionist about very instinctive, organic things. You know what I mean? Which is tricky. Yeah.
But it's storytelling, and that's what.
Yes.
You're a storyteller, and through your storytelling, you're a healer too.
Wow. I'm gonna. Yeah. Now I'm gonna have a good day after this, because I just you've taught me a lot, and you're saying very nice things. So
because I feel like even within all the characters that you encountered within your stories, you kind of come in as like almost a silent healer, because like you're giving something to everyone that is coming into contact with you, as much as you're receiving from them and the experience of it.
Within the stories, you mean?
Yeah. It seems like there's like an exchange there. Like you're giving them something that they need.
Yeah.
And you're receiving something.
I think you're right. I think I agree with you. I think there was a lot of quiet observation with a lot of these people, even though I'm social too. I think there was a lot of, and with a lot of these stories, I wasn't trying to push myself into everything necessarily. I was kind of rolling with people and going with the flow. You know?
Like even in your conversation in the psych ward with the gentleman. You know, like
the Asian guy.
Yeah, you're offering him like a bit of
I absolutely, and that was a big moment for me because I was so stuck in my own head, and as anybody would be in that situation. But I mean, to see a guy that, you know, he had a family, he tried to kill himself. You know, I didn't have either. I didn't try to kill myself or didn't have a family of my own. So I'm like, this guy has it worse than you right now, dude. You know. So and one of my favorite parts of that is the fact that and it really, really, really is true. But that football game was happening at the exact moment, like the actual wardrobe malfunction thing.
Yeah,
like it was just I couldn't believe that this was like of all games. That's like one of those famous NFL games of all time, you know. But I guess it happens with me, you know. Like, of course, I would be in a psych ward during that Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Well, you'll never forget it.
I won't forget it. No.
Yeah. All right. We could probably talk forever.
We probably could. We might. The pyramid, like the travel pyramid stuff, is kind of a big part of it.
And have a part 2.
I'm thinking part 2 at a different time. Absolutely.
Because I feel like there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Okay. So the question I ask to wrap up the conversation is, if your inner voice had a billboard, what would it say to the world?
Okay, I'm gonna need a few seconds here. If my inner voice had a billboard and I wanted to show that to the world,
what would you say to the world if you had a billboard?
Okay, all right. I need you're probably gonna have to edit out some silence here.
No, it's okay.
All right, let me think for a sec. Well, so I'm gonna talk. Can I talk through it? I'm gonna talk through it a little bit.
Please.
So this I like the question. I think the potential answer can very likely lead to a cheesy bumper sticker.
Right.
You know, just like Ram Dass stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
Or this and that. I'm not invalidating that stuff. But I my first inclination is for it to be kind of funny. Right?
Right.
My inner voice. Okay. All right. Okay. Wait, I think I got something. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to go with this. Totally in the moment. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's going to be one word. It's going to say look. That's it.
That's good.
Do you like that?
I like it. Yeah.
Because at least when people would look at it, pun intended, they would it weirds you out. Like it's a what? 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 You know, just for a second. It's not super deep, but it's also weird. Right?
But it's also very deep.
Okay. What's your reaction to that? Just because I went with it. Now, what's your reaction to that?
I like it. I think it.
You like it?
I like it.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, how many people don't look?
Many.
Don't even choose to look or know to look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we ended on a strong note here. Wait, should I make t-shirts?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing it. That would be good. T-shirts with
why not
like billboard things. Okay.
It's pretty cool. It's actually a pretty cool idea. Like your idea, that is. But yeah. I had a blast, and I would love to. You mentioned maybe doing a part 2. I would love to do that.
I would love to do that. If people would like to read your book, where can we guide them to?
Thank you for asking. They can right now. It's on Amazon, and it's called Almost Weightless: Essays on the Journey to Myself. And there's a longer subtitle. Okay. But that's all you got to search for now.
Yeah. Well, I'll add the link into the show notes so people can just click on it.
Thank you, Whitney.
Very easily.
I had a blast.
Yeah. I'm
sure I was a bit awkward, but you knew you were going to get that.
Awkward. You were fine.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you're listening and you like what you hear, please consider subscribing and rating this podcast, as it really helps get this podcast out to other people who might be interested in hearing it but don't know about it yet. And also, if you'd like to contact me or reach me, you can reach me at unconditioningpodcast@gmail.com, or Unconditioning Podcast on Instagram. Thank you so much, and until next time, stay tuned in to you.